Super Smash Bros. Melee is a sequel release for the Nintendo GameCube. Being met with mostly high reviews on release, the game took up about 950 megabytes of the GameCube disc and featured both single-player and multiplayer game modes. The Super Smash Bros. Melee community is flights across the world, venues and places we would have never expected, motivation, job opportunities, the sole income for countless people, and most importantly, our friends. We as a community and we alone have built this scene from the ground up with no help from the developer who created this game. Whether it's through their actions or through their direct comments, Nintendo does not value the spaces we love. Almost every other competitive video game community is funneled and supported by their developer. Every setup at the Call of Duty or Gears of War or Capcom Cup event is supplied by that developer in some way, and very likely so is the prize pool, the renting of the convention hall, and countless other aspects that go into hosting an event. We exist because of us. Everything provided in that venue is provided by us. Nintendo is not the Melee community, we are. While this game is not owned by us, this scene damn sure is. In the almost 2 decades of existing, the Melee community has left the door open for Nintendo to be involved, and while the support we've been given is practically non-existent, we will never rely on them for anything. Fuck you, Nintendo. Fuck you not just for the cease and desist on EVO 2013, fuck you not just for the cease and desist on Big House Online in 2020, but fuck you for showing more attention to this community when it is to stunt our successes rather than to help our longevity. There is no legal action Nintendo can take that can stop us from loving this game, and here's Allston Melee's 10 reasons why we're still playing Super Smash Bros. Melee today. Shouts out to these people for the video idea, subscribe for weekly Melee top 10s, and number 10, no Brawl Support. There have been darker days for the Melee community. Days where no one was showing up, no more outside forces helping out, and barely anyone talking about the game in a positive manner. After Brawl's release, Melee tournaments were on the brink of extinction like the original batteries in Pokemon Red and Blue cartridges. Gatherings to play Melee were becoming too small to be worth hosting, and players were reluctantly learning Brawl Tech just to continue being involved in competitive Smash. If Nintendo showed an ounce of attention towards the people playing Brawl, there's a real chance this scene would look pretty different. Nintendo had all the tools available to market their game to the competitive community with both MLG and EVO on board, but their help with competitive Brawl was just as non-existent as their help with competitive Melee years prior. Organizers like Alucard are the reason we are still here today, because these legends stuck their necks out to give people a place to play Melee post Brawl's release. Competitive communities are constantly forced to their new iteration of the game, and for a number of reasons that we'll be diving into, we do not share that trait. We're not sure if a Nintendo Brawl circuit could have truly stopped things like revival of Melee's impact, but the Melee scene was given no reason to stop playing the game we love, and our scene still stands today because of that thought. Number 9, we are not done figuring this game out. Melee is a solved game has been uttered from the mouths of sweaty turbo nerds with anime profile pictures since the existence of Twitter, and even dates back to the days of Ken Dashback grabbing folks for the first time. Countless times throughout this competitive scene, people have thought Melee has had all of the technical abilities completely figured out, and then PC Chris turnaround dropped a ledge, and then people actually started ledge dashing in tournament, and then someone's shield drop fared, and then Wizzy smashed the eyes into a different fucking stage. The point is, whether people thought of these theorized innovations as too risky to perform or just had no idea they were humanly possible, new techniques have been consistently added to the competitor's repertoire. 5-year intervals have completely changed the meta and techniques used by the people playing Melee at all levels. This game and the tech that comes with it are hard as hell, but our old dogs have learned a couple new tricks. How long have you watched Melee? Cool. How many times have you heard or said, wow, I have never seen that before? Whether it's a completely new option, an approach to a matchup, or someone just buffered a wall jump and killed Mufasa, tools in this game are constantly being discovered and unlocked. Looking at our top players as these people who have this game all figured out is insulting the constant work and practice they have put in. In the past couple years alone, we have seen more tournaments seemingly reserved for the top echelon, unexpectedly won by underdog players, sometimes showcasing things we have never seen before while doing it. Through adaptations and hard work, the people playing Melee competitively have kept up with the endless new discoveries, and you are lying to yourself if you think that we've seen it all. Number 8, a skill-based reward system. As mentioned, becoming a top player is a difficult road filled with forced adjustments and many others who have taken detours off that path. But that voyage, that urge to get better at Melee and beat the other people, most likely started way before you ever paid that first entry fee. Whether it's casually with the homies or in winner's quarters of Big House, beating your friends in this game can be a great and rewarding feeling. You are not the same player that showed up to that first local, and that's because something along the path made you want to come back and be better. Melee is a beautiful game that rewards people for the amount of effort that you put into it. There's no XP, there's no level cap, and there's no in-game team supporting you. It's just you, the character select screen, and the person that your tag was called next to. Because Melee tournaments and rankings exist all over the world, the skill level has risen with every new local, regional, or major that gets announced. But with all of those new events come new experiences for people, and these events have made the passage of rising in skill more accessible for everyone. That first close set with someone, that first upset that you considered a good win, that first time you got bodied at the local and went home and practiced for hours, these moments can spark vivid memories that are personal to your inner journey, but it's because we all have the ability to consistently check how good at Melee we really are. Whether it's your first major or it's putting everything you have into Slippy Unranked, the amount of people playing Melee is larger than ever, and you have plenty of avenues to check your skill level. If you put in everything you have and practice and learn with the intent to get better, those 65ths and not making it out of pools can turn into something greater, and that voyage of first becoming better at this game is something all skill levels can relate to. Number 7, our biggest tournaments are amazing. The tournament organizers who host the biggest Melee tournaments in the world, in some way, provide for every single thing inside that venue. We get absolutely no help and no handouts to make our scene better, and yet, our events are to a standard that other communities strive for. We really believe that the organizers behind our majors throughout the years have pushed each other to host some of the best run video game events that exist. The amount of other communities who can push 2,000 entrants in and out of an in-person bracket within 2 days is extremely slim, and we can assure you that there's probably no one else doing it with the f***ing stipulations we've been given. If people like Juggle Guy, Sheridan, or many others behind the scenes didn't put all of their time into these tournaments, we have no idea where we would be as a community. These people are the reason that our scene exists in the way it does today, because not only are these events the peak of competition, they are some of the most fun we've ever had in our lives. Our organizers stress, panic, and are the most exhausted they have ever been for one weekend, and in return, we are able to have some of the best run open entry events ever. Our majors are run at a level that we constantly take for granted because the people behind these events have actually built what they have from the ground up. With nothing given to them, they still manage to host events that not only change our scenes, but set a standard for grassroots communities around the world. And for that, our undying appreciation is repeated and repeated again for the people who are the reason that our scene is so relevant. Number 6, decade-long storylines. This game's narrative has the ability to make the most tame of disagreements turn into a shit show of personal insults. Not only do people care about Melee, we care about the story of Melee just as much. Even mentioning the acronym GOAT can turn comment sections and tweet replies into a battlegrounds of words, and people care so much because of the storylines that have been slowly building over time. There are rivalries in Melee that have more lore and known history behind them than the entirety of other communities, and the scripted TV show that is the Melee scene has more seasons than you can watch. Storylines in Melee are what gets the stream 100k viewers, what gets the ballroom screaming in excitement, what gets this video made, and what makes two people playing a video game feel like the most important thing to ever happen. This game is why we're here, and everyone shares the same love for this fucking 2001 GameCube game, but these people and their stories is what makes the grand finals so grand. With every new tournament comes another new chapter in the book, and we know this story is never gonna end. Number 5, people love talking about Melee. A Melee venue is a place filled with nostalgia and real-life examples of community building. However, the place you go after the Melee venue can sometimes spark just as many memories as that original meeting ground. We call this the Denny's effect, where people are more than down to talk about everything that just happened at the local for literally hours after the venue closes. The love of this video game does not stop after the tournament ends, and we are forever thankful for the people who have led the narratives of Melee. Key members of the scene, like commentators and our fellow Melee content channels, are purely built and run off of their love for this game. In the same way as you giving a non-connected friend a quick synopsis of who a player like Mango is and getting them excited about a game that they've never played, commentators and content creators help push that same idea but to anyone who clicks the link. Even if no one's watching, even if there's no recording setup, even if it's on a CPU on training mode, you will remember that one down tilt raptor boost nair up air knee combo no matter what the DI was, and you will tell anyone who listens all about it because you and the rest of this scene love talking about the game we play. Number 4, the companies who have supported us. As we will repeat over and over again, Nintendo is not the reason we are the community that we are, and companies like MLG, Twitch, Red Bull, Geico Gaming, and many others have helped us way more than they have ever. Yes, f***ing Geico Gaming has had more of a presence at Melee Majors than Nintendo by a mile. These companies have created Melee circuits, saved our biggest tournaments, or have been the secret pot bonus no one is allowed to talk about, and the amount of work they have put in across the board is incredible. Most of the time, these companies have to go behind Nintendo's back in order to support us in the ways that they do, and they have subtly let us know that the boys in white and red is the reason that they cannot be more involved. Rest in peace, Gods and Gatekeepers VODs. While there are countless forces who have stepped up when Nintendo did not, and either built something from the ground up or enabled our tournament organizers to host better events, we do have a very special place in our heart for the sponsors of Melee. In 2012, the idea of Melee players sharing a sponsor with players from the MOBA or shooting game worlds was an untouchable fever dream. But after Melee got its first big shot at the esports world through things like EVO's return, those EMP Arcadia sponsors slowly turned into alliances and C9s, and these future companies would become forever a part of our scene. The fact that Mango is C9 Mango can sometimes be taken for granted, and sponsors like this are really the reason our top players can call this a job and dedicate their time like they do. Nowadays, getting a sponsor is a tangible goal for the up-and-comers of our scene, and being sponsored by a probably sus fake company is a rite of passage for any rising star in our scene. That Hogpen Gaming sponsorship that comes with free jerky and free lotion can eventually become a real and established esports company if you try hard enough, and that is an amazing benefit to anyone putting all of their effort into Melee. And yes, that sponsor's real. Even if Melee is not considered a tier 1 esport, the sponsors of our top players are. The fact that TSM has a Melee player is not only the end goal for anyone grinding at the local, but a new angle for the scene as a spectator sport. While you and I may drive 45 minutes to a weekly on Tuesday, there are plenty of people who would just throw on Genesis Grand Finals in the same way where they click the Twitch link for the insert big League of Legends tournament here, or the ESPN Rocket League thing. I don't know these things. The ability for our top players to take this full time, rely on these companies, and we as a scene might rely on them a little bit too. For giving us the ability to share our love of this game to anyone willing to watch. Shouts out to all the businesses, sponsors, and groups who have helped push us into the spotlight. But still fuck corporate America though. Number 3, this is a job. The Melee scene is not just the place you can have the most fun in your life, not just the place where you can grow up as a person, but the start in a career of doing what you actually fucking love. This game is the partial or only income for a growing list of people who contribute to it, and has been the professional start for so many people involved in our scene. Melee being a job is not just limited to the top 10 players of this game, but to the people winning every local in New Hampshire, the streamers putting endless hours in, the tournament organizers, the content creators of all kinds, the artists at the booth all weekend, the filmers and photographers, the coaches, and so many others call Melee a job. The amount of monetary avenues a fucking GameCube game from 2001 has created is astronomical, and it has continuously helped people on much more than just a resume. Not only is Melee a self-sufficient community, you can be self-sufficient from the Melee community. This entry is very special to me, the person reading this, because Melee really is the reason I have any sort of career to begin with. What started out as hosting Melee in northern Massachusetts turned into a full-time job at Smash GG, and while I no longer work for said company, my time in the esports world is thanks to this community. As of now, I've worked events like DreamHack, PAX, and many other non-Melee esports events, and every time, without fail, those events and organizations have asked curiously and excitedly about my time in this community because Melee is a real and proven path into the esports world. The person who hosted that first Melee tournament is a very different one from the person reading this script today, and I am so thankful for this community for helping me grow professionally and personally. People from the Melee community are involved and are around all parts of the esports world, and we're almost certain that every single one of them are fighting for Melee from the inside out. This is not just a game, not even just a community, but a place to really become the person you want to be, and we are forever thankful for the experiences and growth that this game has given us. Number 2, Grassroots Mentality. While the companies who have supported us made us strong, we are most powerful because of the way that we think. We think this is the best game in the world, we will share Melee with anyone who will listen, and we do not think you need a Nintendo or any sponsor to host your own tournament. The Melee scene is as accessible as ever to get involved. There is not only a tournament almost everywhere in the world, there are rankings, rivalries, and legends tied to those local scenes. While some games require things like 10 $300 monitors, 10 $400 consoles, and enough people interested to compete in real life compared to the in-game online events, Melee is very different. Go on Craigslist and search free TV, go on eBay and search broken Wii, and make a post on Facebook about your basement being open on Friday, and you, my friend, have a Melee local that we might just attend in a world that doesn't suck ass. The fact that you can throw every single item of a Melee setup down the fucking stairs and use it immediately after is an unintentional gift to organizers everywhere. The people behind our majors and nationals have done their job to such a high degree that it's inspired and taught countless people to do the same themselves, creating an army full of knowledgeable and passionate people. Tournaments like Pound 3 and Revival of Melee are a huge reason why the Melee community can exist in the way it does today and have local Melee venues across the world. These tournaments prove that the success of our scene does not rely on anything Nintendo does, but on the people hosting events and the people who register for them. This grassroots mentality, this do-it-yourself if it hasn't been done ideals, the thought if the Melee community isn't the place you want it to be, make it one, is helped by our grassroots mentality, and that was birthed by the community who came before us and altered our path. To the local scenes who don't nearly get the recognition they deserve, this is your f***ing paragraph. To the people in a subsection of Hawaii or a random part of the Midwest state or the part of California that no one talks about or any place that has these tales of local legends, thank you for giving people a place to play Melee. Whether or not the general scene gives you the acknowledgement that you are warranted, you give people a place not only to play this video game, not only to grow as a person, but a place to really call home. Almost everyone involved in the scene has helped with event work in some way, and if you haven't yet, it's probably time to start. The volunteers of this scene play just as big of a role as the people treating this a full-time job because we as a community that spans all over the world have contributed to making us better. And our number one reason we are still playing Melee, we are not at Nintendo's mercy. A cease and desist cannot kill this scene. Let me say it louder for the people who have this turned down. A cease and desist cannot kill the Melee scene. You could take away our biggest events. You could force us off of Twitch. You could cease and desist every fucking Melee tournament that exists. But nothing will ever stop the people in this community from loving and sharing that love for this video game. Nothing. You can never force us to a new game, and you will never stop people from discovering this community. If Nintendo had the same strategy of supporting their competitive communities as the other scenes who we supposedly look up to, where they are heavily pressured to the newest release, there's a good chance Melee would look entirely different. If Nintendo had given the competitive community an actual reason to fucking switch games in 2006, no diss to anyone else, but Melee very well could have been like the Brawl side event at SmashCon. But we're not. Nintendo failing to support us is the best thing that ever happened to this scene. We could never have the rug pulled out from under us because we built the fucking platform that we stand on. All of the companies that have existed in our scene are because they saw the strength of what we were capable of. Let me make this as clear as possible. We do not want Nintendo's support. We do not want them trying to make our events better, and we do not want them involved in any sort of way. If Nintendo was more involved with the Melee community, we would be at the mercy of an old, out-of-touch company who has fucked over every single competitive community born from their attempts at family fun. The best thing Nintendo ever did for us was stay as far away as they possibly could, and the worst thing they ever did to us was getting involved in our game. We as a scene created the empire that we stand above today, and the only help we had was people a part of our community. We will never stop hosting events. We will never stop sharing our combos, and we will never stop loving Melee. A Nintendo-sponsored Melee event will forever be as hollow of a statement as it sounds, and I promise, from our community to yours, we will never let Nintendo kill Project M again. If you play a Smash game or a Nintendo game in general, you are not shown the support that you deserve. Whether it's Melee, Ultimate, Project M, Brawl, 64, ARMS, Splatoon, Mario Kart, the speedrunning community, or anyone else treating their Nintendo game with sincerity, we must work together to give our scenes the things that they refuse to provide. We will never need a Nintendo rep at the tournament because Nintendo, you don't fucking add anything to our tournaments. We will never roll over, and we will never stop lugging the CRT up 2 flights of stairs to the local, but most of all, we will never stop making the Melee community a better place. From the bottom of our hearts, and not just from Allston Melee, fuck you Nintendo, long live the Melee community.
Thanks for watching Allston Melee, and subscribe for weekly SSBM content. A special shout out to our patrons for supporting us on making these videos. And if you want to throw $4.20 our way for some behind the scenes stuff, check out patreon.com/AllstonMelee. On top of weaponizing the top 10 format, we also have a weekly podcast where we talk honestly about the ongoings of the Melee scene from our perspective. So throw that in your rotation. Thanks for watching, and smell you later.